gender issues should be taken seriously by the government. Hello and welcome to Public Conscience, the anti-corruption program produced by the Progressive Impact Organization for Community Development, PRIMORC. I am Adaobi Obiabumo with my colleague Esther Bassi.
Thanks for joining us.
On Public Conscience, we seek to evolve a corruption-free society by drawing government and citizens' attention to the corruption reports and issues for prompt democratic actions against them. We also promote integrity by amplifying rare cases of the display of honesty by public and private individuals. We appreciate the MacArthur Foundation for supporting the production of this program.
Okay, on today's program, we will continue with the heart-wrenching reports we introduced briefly in our last episode, which exposed how young girls are being married off against their wishes in Niger State communities, despite laws prohibiting forced marriages in Nigeria.
Yes, you heard that right. According to an investigative report published by the International Center for Investigative Reporting, ICIR, in Niger State communities, in this age and time, promising young girls are still being forced into marriages.
Forced marriages is a marriage in which one or both parties have not personally expressed their full and free consent to the union. A child marriage is considered to be a form of forced marriage, given that one or both parties have not expressed full, free, and informed consent. And it must be noted that forced marriage is a form of abuse against women, men, and children. It involves emotional, psychological, and physical, financial, and even sexual abuse. The United Nations recognizes it as a form of human abuse. In Nigeria, Section 13 of the Violence Against Persons prohibits, or the Prohibition Act 2012, VAP Act, criminalizes and declares forced marriage as a harmful traditional practice, which is unlawful.
VAP Act 2015. In some parts of northern Nigeria, forced marriage is mostly worsened by poverty, level of education, and religion. In the case of Niger State, forcing of young girls into marriages continue to thrive despite the state's domesticating VAP Act in 2021 and even the establishment of Child Rights Protection Agency in the state. Today's program seeks to draw the attention of the Niger State government to the spate of young girls being forced into marriages and the need to take urgent steps against the unlawful act. For you out there, how much of a problem do you think forced marriages are in our society? Why do you think the practice of forcing young girls into marriage is still thriving in this part of the world? Do you think our laws are good enough to protect young girls from forced marriages? And how best can the government address problem of child brides and forced marriages in Nigeria?
Be ready to join us through phone and text messages during this conversation. The WhatsApp phone line to send your message is 0902 265 6167. That is 0902 265 6167. Please indicate your name and your location when sending your message. This number is for messages only.
Please begin to send your messages as soon as possible to 0902 265 6167. That is 0902 265 6167. We will give you the numbers to call shortly.
If you just joined us, we are looking at a recent investigative report on how many young girls in Niger State communities are married off early against their wishes despite laws prohibiting forced marriages in the state and country at large. According to the United Nations, forced marriages or child bride is nothing short of modern-day slavery, while a 2017 World Bank study estimated that ending child marriage could generate Nigeria an additional $7.6 billion in earnings and productivity.
We will also have a conversation on another report by ICIR on how state governments make open contracting portals inaccessible, thereby hiding awarded contracts and preventing citizens from holding government officials accountable. But joining us in the live program today to discuss some of these issues and more is the senior investigative journalist with the International Center for Investigative Reporting, ICIR, Olubenga Adaniki. You're welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me.
We also have in the studio a gender activist and legal practitioner. She also doubles as the coordinator of McGregor Gender Foundation. I'm Yewande Ogundipe. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Let's start today's conversation with Adaniki. Could you give us an idea of why your organization deemed it fit to touchlight issues around gender in Niger State?
Okay. Thank you very much. Of course, it's our primary responsibility as a journalist to set agenda, to provide information, and then to look at issues of public interest and bring them to the front burner. As a matter of fact, we discovered that we got a scoop actually about the issue of marrying out underage girls, in Niger State, and then we moved into action with our crew. We visited the state, we tracked the community, and then we're able to identify the community. Getting to the community, we already mapped out some strategy that we're going to deploy to report the story. We worked with some fixers who are very familiar with the terrain, and then by the time we got there, we tried to meet with the traditional ruler to speak with him.
Which local government is that?
I can't clearly remember now, but it's one of the remote communities.
Can you also remember any of the communities you went to?
In Niger State, it's one of our junior reporters that actually went to the field. He's currently on leave, so I am just covering for him.
Okay, please go ahead.
But we spoke with the traditional ruler, and then the traditional ruler kind of denied the issue, and he maintained that most of the time the girls are either 18 years old or 19 years old, and with that they are not considered to be underage girls. But again, there is a religious perspective to it, in the sense that there's a particular age that one of our religion actually recognizes as one being matured enough. I wouldn't want to go into details.
At what age would that be?
15. Because of course anything about religion in Nigeria is always very sensitive, and one needs to be very careful. So there is a religious perspective to that. There are people who strongly believe in the teachings of their religion, and then would rather go for that than the other way around. But again, looking at the victims, they are not always happy, with the fact that they are being forced to have a relationship or go into a marital affair with someone they don't even know, that they don't even have any feeling with, have any feeling for, or they don't even have any kind of intimacy. And there are times that the parents actually go extra mile by threatening them, forcing them into a room with snakes, just to force them to say, okay, yes, I've agreed, I will do that. And in some extreme cases, they are being hypnotized. Do you understand? So these were some of our findings, but I wouldn't like to spend much time going to detail. I will advise people to check our website and read more.
Okay, just to help you there, from the report, it says that the investigation was done in Saganuwan Kula village near Etsu Audu, Bako local government area in Niger State. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
From the report, you spoke to some of the victims of these forced marriages. How are they coping with the situation, given the fact that some of the majority of them did not give their consent before they were married off to some of these men?
As a matter of fact, it's been terribly difficult for those young girls, and it's been tough for them. Oftentimes, they try to escape. At times they pretend as if they were going to concur with the proposal, and probably a week after, they will just find a way, to escape. They might ask the husband to take them to the nearest maternity home or primary health care center that they would like to check themselves for a medical issue, and by the time they get there, they will enter into the facility and then escape through the back door. We've heard of victims who trekked over 2 hours, in the forest, all trying to escape from being forced into such union. To a very large extent, I think the Niger State Child Protection Agency, tried to some extent, but again, they probably need to do more, in terms of sensitization, in terms of probably sanctions, because we also find out that some of these things are also cultural. There is cultural perspective, there is religious perspective, and it has become a kind of social norm in those parts of Niger State. So the state's agency for child protection probably needs to do more by visiting some of these. I know they must have made some attempts, because this is not new. This is something that has been happening for ages, but they probably need to do more. And if they don't have more capacity, they probably also need to reach out to partners, either local or international partners, or form a coalition, so that it won't just be a one-man show, to achieve greater impact.
You mentioned culture, and we know that culture is a way of life. If it is the way of life of this community, should Nigerians be bothered?
Absolutely. We've heard of communities, even here in Abuja, where they still kill twins. We've heard of communities where some absurd things that you hardly can imagine. We know of a particular man somewhere in I can't remember the village now, in one of the local government in FCT. The Yoruba man, he had to build a particular building. He set up a building, and then he was helping out those kids. And at some point, Action Aid Nigeria came in. Maybe it's in Kuje or somewhere. Came in and then supported him. You understand? So any of those children that were about to be lynched or attacked or used for whatever purposes, you go there and rescue them.
So does the violation of the rights of the girl child come into play here?
Well, it appears we are giving so much emphasis on the girl child. How about the boy child? We also need to look at that perspective, because this instance I just cited is not just for the girl child, but also for the boy child. But what I'm just trying to say in essence is that this cultural thing is not peculiar to Niger State. It's happening in FCT. In other part of southern part of Nigeria, we also have some cultural issues,
normal cultural practices.
And then it shows that government needs to do more. Okay, faith-based organizations needs to do more, and other non-profit organizations also need to do more.
When you say government needs to do more, and then she said culture is the way of life of the people long before even the existence of some of these acts and laws. How do you think the government, or what are the things that the government needs to do? Since you said there have been awareness in these areas and these things still persist, what other means do you think it should employ?
So I think government can deploy a carrot and stick approach, okay, in the sense that if you see a group of community or a group of persons tilting towards the positive aspect of the government's advocacy, they should be rewarded or recognized somehow, okay. But those who are still insisting on sticking to the past could be sanctioned somehow, and the sanctions must not necessarily be heavy sanctions. They could just be a little bit of maybe I don't know, but it's the expert legal practitioners can probably give a better perspective.
Okay, you're shifting.
Let's speak with Yewande Ogundipe, who is a legal practitioner and also a gender activist. When you read this report, what was your first impression or reaction?
Well, I've been involved in gender issues now for almost a decade, so there are some things that are really not new. The only new aspect or the only shocking aspect was hearing it directly from the victims. We're used to hearing third-party reports or reading it, but the report was so explicit since it was from the victims themselves. That was the shocking aspect of it. That is this still happening? Is this still continuing? And it seems to be like a norm. We're talking now about culture, way of life of a people, which is primarily decided or based on their religion, because your religion has a whole lot to play on the kind of culture or your way of life anyway. So when you have a religion that allows you marry underage girls, or allow you marry underage girls out to underage boys, or marry underage girls to older men, what then can we say? It has become their way of life. It has become a norm. It has become their way of doing things. Where you hear a man say, my father married my mother at the age of 12. So why can I not marry you at the age of 8? So left to them, they're not doing anything wrong based on their orientation. So before you correct that mindset, before you correct that norm, they have done something wonderful. They went into the scenario. They went to meet them in their community. You have to do it from within. Who are the people they trust? They are grand caddies, they are caddies, they are sheikhs, they are religious leaders. If you are able to target those people, orientate them, this is wrong. You're stealing the childhood of these children. A child at the age of 10, 12 should be thinking of biscuits, sweets, cartoons, not how to provide food on a man's table, not what to do with a man at night. You've stolen her childhood already. You've marred her for life. She's scarred for life. Such people, if they end up getting out of that system, will be a little bit dysfunctional or totally dysfunctional. But if they are allowed to stay there, they are just like dysfunctional for life. Once you gather them, let them know this is what you're doing to these children. You're stealing their childhood. You're even affecting the nation. I think you read something about what will make if we had less child marriages in Nigeria and all that. Even though I'm yet to wrap my mind around it, though, you're affecting our future leaders. Most of these girls, most of these boys are the ones that should be future presidents, senators, doctors, lawyers. You're depriving us. By the time we start having a whole lot of aging population, what happens to the upcoming ones that you've married off, that are busy cooking in one kitchen, or that is if they've not died during childbirth, or victims of VVF? Do you get it? It's a whole big quagmire that it's annoying, it's illegal, it's unconstitutional, it's unlawful, but what can you do about it? It is their way of life. It is how they've been built, how they've been wired.
You earlier said that there is a connection, or religion and culture, in this case, they are connected.
Yes.
Where is the place of the law? What does the Constitution say about this?
All right. I went through the constitutional provisions regarding to this. The Constitution already states that once you're 18, you're an adult. So automatically, anyone less than 18 is still considered as a child. And the same Constitution expressly states that a child will not get married or should not get married. I don't know if I'm making sense.
Definitely.
So if a Constitution tells you a child should not get married, and then you are now marrying out underage girls, automatically you have contravened the Constitution, you have committed a crime. Whatever you're doing is unlawful. It's not backed up by any law. Several international treaties, that are prohibiting child marriage, apart from our Constitution itself that expressly prohibits it. Unfortunately, the same Constitution contradicts itself in some sections. Do you get it? I think section 29 of our Constitution talks about, yes, full age of maturity. And then down, I think section 4 now talks about a woman, once she is married, is considered to be of age. That's wrong. So automatically, a girl marries at the age of 10, our Constitution is saying she's already mature, she's of age. It's wrong. Those are the contradictory sections in our Constitution that is not really helping matters. And most of these so-called big men that end up committing or perpetrating these crimes get away with it because they find where they can hide. They find the lacunas. Do you get it? And the same constitution under, I think, part 1, the second schedule, talks about Islamic and customary law marriages being an exemption when it comes to the issue of maturity in marriage. Automatically, the constitution is contradicting itself on both ends. And this is like a lacuna for such people to capitalize on later when they're meant to be brought to book. I'm not sure if you all remember this particular Senator Yerima that married a 13-year-old Egyptian girl. Those were some of the lacunas they could play with and work with. This section should have been repealed, but out of lobbying, they are still there. Sorry, you have a question?
Alright, so I wanted, because I was wrapping my head around it, what now determines the adult age of a person?
That's another huge problem in Nigeria. We have conflicting laws. Several conflicting laws. The child rights is saying 18. My matrimonial courses is saying 18. The what's it called now? The criminal code is saying another totally different age, 14, 15. Different states have different laws, and mind you, when it comes to issues concerning children, they are not on the exclusive list. They are on the residual list, which leaves them to the State House of Assembly. So National Assembly now, they've enacted Child Rights Acts. We now left for states to also enact their own, because they cannot impose it on them. Out of 36 states, only 24 have ratified. The remaining states, what are they doing? What are they looking at? Is it that they don't love the children, or is it that the interest of children is not paramount? I don't know if I'm communicating with you. That is the problem we have right now. So many conflicting laws on the age of maturity.
But I thought that if we have conflicting laws, that the Constitution supersedes all other acts and treaties, if I would say.
That is the very funny aspect. The same Constitution is contradicting itself by saying a woman, once she gets married, is deemed to be of age. Is that not contradictory? When you say this, when the same Constitution is telling you a child should not get married, down in another schedule now, you now have the same Constitution telling you that Islamic law and customary law marriages are exempted from these provisions. I don't know if I'm making sense to you. The Constitution too has some contradictions that need to be set straight. Probably if the Constitution is set straight in this area, they will know that yes, the Constitution is the grown norm. There's no hard and fast rule about that. It regulates every other laws. But even if the Constitution itself is still dilly-dallying, you say something is 18 years old, you are now giving some people leeway. A woman, once she's married, is mature. So if I marry my 10-year-old daughter out, she's already mature. Do you understand? That's how you interpret the Constitution. So if the Constitution is not helping matters, how would local laws now apply? How would the states now say, okay, fine, then I even need to ask this question. The states that have refused to enact their own local laws, that's a child right law, what are they waiting for? What are they looking at? What is the reason behind it? I would not be surprised if it is a particular set of states from a particular geopolitical zone that have refused to ratify it. I don't want to call out anybody. You get it? But if we keep dilly-dallying, if our laws don't protect these children, who will protect them? We already have laws protecting them. Are we enforcing these laws? You tell me a child should not get married, and in a state, children are being dashed out and married out to a fellow child? At the end of the day, he ends up beating and brutalizing her because he himself is a child. I read the report. Most of those children were married out to children too. You marry a child out to a child, forget it. That's a disaster waiting to happen. It will beat that blue-black. I remember the case of, which is one of the cases I read of one Wasila Tumaru in Kano then, that poisoned that, she was a 14-year-old girl that was married out to a 35-year-old man. And she poisoned him and his friends. Yes, they all died. She poisoned him, and when she was on trial, one of the things a lawyer was advocating for is, let's try her as a child. They said no, she's not a child, a 14-year-old girl. When your constitution is telling you the age of maturity is 18. I don't know if you understand what I'm trying to say. Even case law is not helping the
situation. Shouldn't the constitution be amended?
That is the thing. The persons that will amend the constitution, so to say, are also perpetrators of the crime. We had a senator then that married a 13. What came out of it? Who was sent to prison? Who was sanctioned? Was there any form of enforcement? That is the frustration of civil society. That is the frustration of some of these enforcement agencies. Do you get it? Now let me give you a scenario here. I was discussing earlier. Sometimes a few years ago, my mentor of blessed memory, Barrister Esther Uzoma, God rest her soul, we were involved in a matter where a 12-year-old girl was raped by a 62-year-old man. Fine. The matter was taken to the police station. It was charged to court. The first trauma was the rape. The second trauma now, the trial was holding in her school. So our classmates were privy. Everybody had already know how they raped her. Now the trial took place in her school.
Quite traumatizing, I would say.
Trauma number 2. After that, we took the matter up as an NGO, proactive gender initiative. We were on TV, high TV then in Pape. The girl was heard. She backed the camera. Of course, she's a child. She's not meant to. Her face is not meant to be seen. Even the trial that was taking place in open court is wrong. Violates the Child Rights Act. Anything that has to do with children should be in camera, in the judge's chamber, not in public. Any trial that has to do with a child should be in camera, not in public. You understand? Unless it's an outright crime, which will be in the open glare of the public. Now that's the second trauma now, the rape, the trial. The third one, which was the blow that, in fact, I went up gender issues for some years. It traumatized me. I asked my senior then, how far with this case? Has he been indicted? Has he been convicted? Is he now in prison? No, I got the shock of my life. Our family decided to settle the matter out of court and married her off to the 62-year-old man because she was pregnant. So a 12-year-old girl was married to a 62-year-old man. And they settled the crime out of court. And it was a judge that presided. And it was a police that prosecuted. What are we talking about?
Should a rape case be settled out of court?
It's even a crime to settle a crime out of court.
Okay, it's time for us to get the person listening at the under end of the dial to react to the conversation, because we have children amongst us in our homes. Are you the owner of a school? You have minors there. Are you a father, mother? Would you be willing to give your daughter or your son off at the tender age of 18, like my guest said, when they should still be playing hide and seek, like we say it in our communities, in their homes, when some of them would still be calling you, Mommy, Daddy, I need XYZ. It's time for us to get your reaction. Hello, your name and where you're calling us from. Comrade Israel, let's hear you. How would you react to the discussion?
Yeah, discussion for this morning, I think it's up for concern. Though, I think the investigation is very detailed. I don't want us to stand on that area, because I think the custom over there, in that area, seems to align with what is going on over there. So, I'm of opinion, maybe that is the way their life has been followed. But from our investigation here, I think also did the little of my own side that maybe my area here, we are just not.
Where is your area?
Agbara in Ogun State, yes.
Ogun State.
Agbara, yeah, in Agbara.
Agbara.
I live, yeah, Agbara.
Okay.
So, Agbara in Ogun State, Agbara is one of the that happens in industrial help of Nigeria. I don't know, it's not that place. But from my own parents, I have someone from that area as well who was talking. He also narrated such things to me. And I think maybe that's the way they have been doing in their own climate over there. So, I think education and education will help us to take that norms from that area. So I think if the public can come to that, they can able to educate the young ones over there that it is not really the best thing for them to embark on.
All right, thank you so much. Agbara local government in Ogun State. So it is not just prevalent in Niger State. There are other communities in Nigeria where this is prevalent. Adaniki, you were nodding. Agbara, have you heard of that before? Or are you from that part?
No, I'm not from that part, but I've heard of Agbara before. It's in Ogun State, where you have a multinational brand.
Before you published your report, did you reach out to the local government authority?
We reached out to every possible stakeholder, including the Emirate. Okay, and then they acknowledged, of course, because we can't just do a report without reaching out. That would be unethical, So we reached out to even the Emirates, Niger State, and they acknowledged the fact that yes, this thing has been very prevalent in the state, and they've also made consistent effort, okay, to solve the issue, But again, I think it's a problem that has been embedded deep down into their system. So, and it appears that even the Emirates is tired, kind of, So, and that's why I earlier mentioned the fact that there is need for a multi-dimensional approach, okay, to addressing this challenge. It's really a big one. It's really a big issue. It's multi-layered, because if it were to be just something cultural, then we'll have find probably a simple approach to address it. But it's cultural. You have poverty. You have religion. Do you understand? And then the legal perspective too, as well. So it's really a big challenge.
Okay. Multidimensional reasons why some of these occur. He mentioned poverty.
Yes.
Is poverty really one of the reasons?
It's one of the reasons why, because there's a bride price. Bride price is always involved in all these traditional marriages. So once you have a girl, you say yes, you see the naira signs on her. You're not even jubilating over the fact that, oh, my wife delivered safely, I'm now a father. No, you see the naira signs. Someone's going to pay me bride price on this woman or on this girl. So that's the mindset. And it's only a poor person that can think that way.
But how fat or how bogus is the bride price?
Honestly, I don't know. I've not been able to do a research on how much a full-blown child is worth.
Is it up to 500,000?
I doubt it, because from the report I read, some of these girls actually refunded the bride price, which is like a traditional right. When you tell the man, I'm not doing again, I divorce you, I divorce you, I divorce you. I think that's the Islamic way of divorce. Then 3 months of abstinence and then the divorce is final. Some of these girls refunded the bride price. So I don't think it's that much. If it's up to 500,000, I don't know where a baby is, a toddler, or how will I even describe a 12-year-old or a married 13-year-old will get 500,000. So there must be some meager amounts. Do you get it? For them to be able to repay back. You get it? So, and that is even by the way.
Yeah.
When a locality or a particular tribe is tainted with poverty, they will do anything for money. They will do anything for money, whether bride price is involved or not. Sometimes some of these girls don't even marry all these so-called small boys. It's some big men that will still come and pick them up. And we should also have it at the back of our mind that there are some people that are how will I call it? They are pedophiles in their privacy. They don't come out openly. They can marry 10, 15 wives, but they are still looking after all these small children. They are the ones that will go and do business with them. Why would you even decide to give out your child? Poverty is just one of the factors. The religious pressure too is there. In our religion, that is how we do it. Once a girl attains the age of puberty, she starts menstruating, she's ready to be a wife. Just dash her out and collect your money. When you have that mindset, they will keep marrying these girls out in dozens. And mind you, when these girls marry at that age, means they have more productive years. So they are still going to produce more girls. The problem is serious. They're still going to produce more children. More girls and boys that will be married to a fellow girl, or girls that will be married out to one big man or to another child. So the problem goes even beyond poverty. The social pressure, the religious pressure. Alaji this has given out his daughter. What are your own still doing at home? Oh, yeah, come and correct them. Do you get it? Apart from that, the discrimination, gender discrimination that feels a woman is a chattel. You know, most of them have it at the back of their mind. The girl child, what's she good for? Is it not just to have children and go to the kitchen? They don't even believe in educating her or believing she has a prospect.
Don't you think we need reorientation?
Yes, reorientation, but for how many years will we keep reorientating people that don't want to be reorientated? It's a different thing.
Way out? The
way out now is sanctions and enforcement. Do you get it? You marry a child, you make this guy a scapegoat. They just picked Abu. He has been sentenced to 10-12 years imprisonment. The other person will think twice before marrying a child. I just gave you the scenario of a 62-year-old man in FCT Abuja that married a 12-year-old that he raped and got pregnant for him. Is that not traumatizing enough? Imagine if he had been sentenced. That would have been a big plus for the civil society. Do you understand? That we've championed this cause and a perpetrator has been brought to book. But till date, I'm yet to find, apart from these rape cases and all that, someone that has married a child despite the fact that it's illegal, that has been sentenced. There is none. So and we have a lot. Sorry.
So there is more to be done.
More to be done. A lot of dead letter laws. The Child Rights Act has expressly prohibited child marriage. Constitution too is confused about it. Do you get it? The Criminal Code has expressly prohibited it. We have so many laws prohibiting it. Who has enforced? Who has been sanctioned? Who has been jailed for marrying a child so far?
Let's look at the level of implementation of the Child Rights Act.
Yes.
You've done the investigation. You've been working on gender matters for a long time.
Yes.
Across the states, what is the level? I mean, that the level of implementation of this act will determine enforcement that you're talking about, and not the prosecution and the rest. Do you think we've had like a good number when it comes to level in percentage? What's the percentage?
We're just picking up. We're just picking up. Where some people even hardly ever cite the law or cite it unless their case revolves around it. I deal with a lot of women and children-based issues. Do you get it? But I've never handled a case on child marriage before. Do you get? Why don't we have all these cases coming up? People don't come out to talk. Look at the scenario I gave you. A girl was married off to her abuser. The family are hushing it. Everything is kept quiet. He impregnated you. Don't talk about it. I had a case of a policeman that was even complaining to me that this girl was raped by a madam's boss. The matter was brought to the police station. Now the matter is being swept under the carpet. Do you get? Even law enforcement agents are tired.
Yeah, we've even done several stories along that line.
You understand?
How the authorities seem to frustrate rape cases. We followed up with victims of rape cases who reported their cases to the authority, and then you now realize that it's even those ones that are finding a way to. You start hearing that why you speak in English, why you wear that kind of clothes,
victimizing
the victim
instead of you providing solution, instead of you providing succor, instead of you showing some kind of concern, and then at the long run you find that it's settled out of court. So it's really a big issue,
which is
honestly.
a big crime. You settle a crime out of court. A rape case out of court. Child marriage is being done like there's no man's business. Like I said, we have so many dead letter laws. Look at the anti-grazing bills. We have cattle everywhere now, all over the world, and you're wondering, didn't they enforce something? What is happening? That is just the issue when it comes to Child Rights Act, and then some, even the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act. Do you understand? So many of these laws are there. When some women don't even know a man throws your things out, he's liable to 2 years imprisonment or a fine of 500,000. I'm sure some people are saying, huh? Do you understand? We have so many laws there that nobody is enforcing. Nobody wants to come out. Everybody is just like sitting down and looking.
I think Ekiti State did something quite good to some extent. Ekiti State opened more like the name and shame, a register where you shame rape those who committed violent girls, exactly. So they publish their pictures and all of that on newspaper, national newspaper, and they also open a register for them where people across the world can go and visit and see their faces and all that. So if you now see, I think that's also aligned with the sanctions she spoke about. By the time you see such thing, even if you want to commit, you have to adjust and say no, I wouldn't want to.
Okay, let's shift a little and look at the open contracting portal, which ICIR also talked about. Could you, in a few minutes, let us or the person listening to you understand what is wrong with that open contracting portal, that citizens cannot freely access the procurement of MDAs, procurement done by MDAs?
Okay, I'm just going to put it this way. The open contracting portal is like it's like a newspaper. Let me just use that as an example, okay, where the government authority is expected to make open, right, all of its spendings. So if I'm awarding contract for the construction of roads, okay, since I'm spending public funds, public from taxes and all that, then I should be able to say on so day, okay, I awarded so contract to so company, okay, and this is the delivery date, and then this is the status, either completed or ongoing and all of that. So imagine having all the 36 states having such portal
where Nigerians home and abroad can easily access those companies, I mean that portal, and then ask question. Take for instance somebody in Nnewi, okay, can easily check the portal and say, oh, this particular project that ought to be implemented or executed within my area has not been executed. So such person can ask questions. But if you don't have that portal open or easily accessible, then you are denying the masses, those that gave you the fund to award contract, you are denying them access to information, access to ask questions or hold you accountable. There are situations where you see a company that was registered a year ago and the following year secured contract, which is clearly against the Public Procurement Act. You must comply with the FIRS law, the PENCOM, the ITF, and then the NSITF, you know, and then you must also, at the federal level, you must also be recognized by the Bureau of Public Procurement, you know, before you can be. But in most cases, you don't. You see, a company that is not, that you can't even find on the CAC database, that you just do a simple search on CAC, search and you won't find, and yet, you know, was awarded contract. So having that OCR, I mean the open contracting portal, okay, in fact it was supported by the World Bank, okay, as a way of I think World Bank even provided a kind of palliative, or not really palliative, support for state government to implement that project. I mean, to embrace the open contracting initiative. It's called open governance. Do you understand? So whichever state government that actually put it in place will be provided some kind of funds, do you understand, as a way of encouraging them. But you realize that some will just open it and then provide either wrong information or skeletal information that you still be very vague, exactly. You know, so that's just what the open contracting is about.
Is the portal domiciled with the Bureau of Public Procurement?
Okay, so the portal is actually we have it at the federal level, okay, more like managed by the Bureau of Public Procurement. Do you understand? In fact, during the COVID period, I did lots of stories because the restriction, they were just, you know, catching fun, so to say, you know. So we're able to use the Nokopo to find out who got what at what cost, and then we even went around the state to track some of this procurement. But at the state level, it's expected that the states will also have Bureau of Public Procurement, so to say, or procurement agency that manages everything that has to do with procurement. So they are supposed to open such portal, the website. So it's not, but again, you see that the state can tell you that it's a federal law. I'm not under, like what you said, I'm not under any obligation to domesticate it, right? But because of that World Bank initiative, a number of them, you know, actually try to comply, even though it's not for true genuity.
So now we are urging the BPP to ensure that the portal is open so that citizens can access information on that portal.
Yeah.
All right, let's quickly begin to round up as we take conclusions on the issue of the child marriage. I would start with back to Adeniki before I go back to the lawyer. What would be your advice to the government and to parents who give out their children at such tender age?
Well, for me, this problem is deep and is not something that can just be addressed within a year or 2 years. It involves, like I said earlier, multi-level approach and holistic approach, you know, faith-based organizations, religious leaders, okay, sensitization from state governments, agencies, and then the need for the political will. Imagine the state governor coming out openly and saying that whoever does this will be sanctioned. Do you understand? It will send message directly to the spine of everyone. Even if you don't understand English, they will translate it to you in local language, and then there will be sanctions. So with that, I think with that, there will be a kind of attitudinal change. Otherwise, there won't be nothing.
All right, thank you very much. Let's come to the barrister.
My own take is this: every state in Nigeria should be made to ratify the law, domesticate it, have your own child rights law that will protect the children better. Then NGOs, don't let's just sit in our offices and do seminars and do talk shows and write. Go to the grassroots. Meet up with these people. I deal directly with women with children in distress. Meet up with them. Let them know if this happens, call this number. We'll come and rescue her. No, there's a level of fear and a level of compliance when they know an organization is involved. And of course, you won't go alone, you go with law enforcement agents. We've come to rescue this child. On which grounds? On the basis of this act, on the basis of this provision. And you take the child. We have several safe havens for such children. So I think NGOs should also be at the forefront. Then schools, sensitize your children, your girls, your boys. Child marriage is wrong. Let them know the existing laws. Do you get it? And then lawyers, don't just let's limit ourselves to the courtroom. You hear a matter is going on, be there. Be ready. Don't just hear this is an indictment of lawyers from Niger State now, since that's the state you're even looking at. What are you doing about it? What is the NBA doing about it? We know these laws are there. We are the ones that we enforce it. Let's be held out for it. Include it in your regular programs. There's going to be a walk. We're going to have a form of evangelism in this area concerning this issue. Do you get it? We should all, it's a fight for all, because we all have children and we want a better future for them, and we want them to stop stealing the childhood of these children. That's my humble take on that.
Thank you so much for that. Injustice to one is injustice to all. Esther, we really must go.
Please visit our news website, primognews.org, that is primognews.org, for all the details of our reports and interviews. Visit our website, www.primog.org, to get all the information about Primog.
And you can watch our videos on Primog TV, our YouTube channel. Please subscribe to get reminders when we have a new post. We sincerely appreciate our guest, a senior investigative journalist with the International Center for Investigative Reporting, ICIR, Olubenga Adaniki. Thank you for being here.
You're welcome.
Our sincere gratitude also goes to the gender activist and legal practitioner, who also doubles as the coordinator of McGregor Gender Foundation, Yewande Ogundigbe. Thank you for being here. Public Conscience has the support of the John D. and Catherine T. MacArthur Foundation, committed to building a more just, verdant and peaceful world. Get more information about the foundation on its website, macfound.org.
Join us again here next week for another episode of Public Conscience, and remember to follow us on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram at @OfficialPrimog. I am Esther Bassi.
And remember that birth registration and birth certificates are both free if your child is under 18. Help stop the corruption in birth registration and do not pay for birth certificates. Also remember that you can give us information or hints about corrupt acts through our phone at 0902 265 6167 or info@primog.org. I am Adaobi Obiabumo. Stay safe.